too hot in them. They're too good.
So good.
They're too good.
And he cut the price, you know.
Oh, you're on your hotspot.
We're waiting for Susie, right?
Problem solving.
We're waiting for Susan?
We're waiting for Susan.
Yep,
I'm
just
sure we
making
can get through roll call to determine quorum
Should I
if you want to start.
Start, okay.
Mhm.
Glasses, I can't read this bad boy.
I will do the roll call.
Alrighty. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Lake Lorraine Downtown Development Authority Board of Directors for Tuesday, January 17th, 2023 is now called to order. It is 6:33. Okay. Could I have a roll call to determine?
All right. Chris Barnett. Jerry Narsh.
Here.
Hank Laurent.
Here.
Sally Medina. Matt Shaw.
Here.
Sam Crusoe.
Here.
Debbie Burgess. Elena Campbell.
Here.
Lloyd Coe.
Here.
6-3, you have a quorum.
Perfect. Okay, next item is approval of the minutes. All minutes can be approved with one vote. The minutes presented by the board for approval are the regular DDA regular board meeting minutes from December 13th, 2022, DDA board special meeting minutes from January 10th, 2023.
Motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes from December 13th, 2022, and special meeting minutes from January 10th, 2023.
Support.
All those in favor? Any discussion?
Discussion, we need to make a change on that. We have Jerry Nash as the chief of police on those notes.
Technically, just not here. He's chief, he's actor, he's a bunch of things.
Okay?
So motion to approve as amended.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have a presentation by Rich and Associates, a parking study.
Members of the board, good evening. My name is Dave Burr. I'm a senior project manager with Rich & Associates. And what I have for you this evening is a brief review of the parking study we completed. A major part of this was field counts that were conducted back in August. What we want to talk a little bit about tonight is the study area that we used for the parking study. It was broken down to a large area and then the downtown core. Within that study area, we evaluated what the parking supply is, looking at the current conditions. We were specifically asked to look at the number of handicap accessible spaces within the downtown core and to compare the results of the supply to the study that was completed, again, by our firm in 2018. We did a land use assessment where our staff actually went around and recorded what the various businesses were in each of the buildings. And then using square footage data that we had from the DDA from our previous study, we updated with that as to what those land uses are. As I mentioned, a key part of this was a parking study utilization that we did. We did this in 2 days, on Thursday, September 15th of last year, and then again on Saturday, September 24th. And those ran from about 10 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. And they were done every 2 hours. And we want to compare the results that we did from 2018 as well. We used the land use information in that parking study, and we built what we call a parking demand model. And from that, we can calculate what the needs are on each block, and we looked at the core parking area because that's where our square footage was on. And then from this, we came up with some priorities and some recommendations for you. The total study area extended, was quite large, and most of our demand, though, was in that area that is shown on the slide there. It's cordoned off. It's what we call the core area, and a little bit clearer picture of that. And the lots that are shown in green are the publicly available lots. The lots that are in red are privately controlled, and those that are in blue are shared parking. And our definition of public parking is I can park there and I can go anywhere I want. So in the public lots and in the shared use, which generally those are available during the evening hours or on weekends, someone can park there and they can visit multiple destinations. Private parking, generally, that's for the customer and visitors, and they expect once your business is concluded, you get in your car and you leave, so that make way for the next customer. The downtown parking supply, it's a mixture of the off-street lots and on-street spaces. The on-street is generally limited to 2 hours, which is what we like to see. We want to see those spaces turn over, and your on-street spaces are generally striped and signed for that limit. There are on-street, there are some handicap accessible spaces, and I'll talk about that in a moment. The lots, almost, I think all of them indicate that it is public parking. The private lots, some do, not all, so particularly during your events, it may create some confusion for some folks whether they can park there or not, have someone come out yelling at them or threatening to have their vehicle towed. The lots are generally in good condition. We did see a few where there were some potholes and things like that, and so we have some recommendations to try to address that as well. The parking supply that if we look at that, if we look at the total parking area, we find about just under 50% of the spaces are publicly available. And that is right at our benchmark. We normally recommend that a municipality have a minimum of 50% of the spaces publicly available. That facilitates someone being able to park once and walk to multiple destinations, as opposed to having to get in their car and move. So overall, you're just under that, that magic threshold by only about 1%. But if we look within the core area, you're about 60% of those spaces are publicly available, which is what most of your demand is. So you're exceeding that benchmark, which is what we like to see. Total supply was about 1,469 spaces. In 2018, we counted a total of 563 spaces. In this study, 641. There were spaces that were added behind the 120 Broadway building. Those are reserved for residents. And then there were a few other spaces where our space count was different. I think on block, what would have been our block 17, we had 11 spaces from what we saw there before. As I mentioned, one of the things that we were specifically asked to look at was the number of handicap accessible spaces. The number of spaces that are required in a parking lot is a function of the capacity of that lot, and these are per ADA regulations. So if the lot is from 1 to 25 spaces, you need to provide a minimum of 1 handicap accessible spaces, and essentially for every 25 spaces above that, it's one additional handicap spaces. Looking at the public lots, overall, you're meeting the requirements. There are 2 lots that have 1 space more than are required, 2 lots that each have 1 space less than required. What we also looked at, though, is you have spaces that are on street that are signed as handicap accessible. And the way the regulations are written is if a handicap accessible space is more convenient or along a more accessible path, you can count that against that requirement. So you actually have about 10 spaces more than are required within the core of the downtown. So in our opinion, you are meeting the requirements for the number of handicap accessible spaces. As I mentioned, the utilization study was kind of the key component of this because we use that to develop our model. On our Thursday survey date, we were only about 36% of the total parking supply was occupied at peak time during the evening. For the core area, that increased to about 60% of the spaces occupied at peak time, and again, that was during the evening during our 6 to 8 p.m. Circuit. When we looked at the Thursday versus Saturday and broke this out into the public versus private, the public spaces on Thursday were about 63% occupied. The private at that same time were about 53% occupied. And after 8 o'clock, the public started to decrease. That changed on the Saturday, that the occupancy essentially increased all day long, hitting its peak during the 8 to 10 time period, where you're about 68% of your public spaces occupied at that time. Comparing the number just to the percentage, what this is showing is the 63%. What that translates into about 269 publicly occupied spaces, and that's both on-street and off-street within the downtown. And when that total was 376 public and private on-street and occupied spaces. And that number, I'll show you in a minute, that's kind of a key to what our demand model is showing. This just shows the occupancy we use. We call this a heat map, and it shows the occupancy by time of day. This is during the 10 to 12 circuit. Lots that are in dark or light blue are lots that are lower occupied, up to 60%. If it's in green, it's getting to about 80%. Yellow, and then red, it's between 90 and 100%. The perception is once parking gets above about 85%, people are going to start to think it's hard to find parking because I may not find it at my first choice lot. I may be going down the street. In fact, as I drove into town this evening, it was actually gratifying to see the number of cars that were on Broadway parked on the street. That would suggest that people are down for the restaurants and some of the other offerings downtown on a Tuesday evening.
And that graph shows for like Thursday through Saturday?
I'm sorry?
The graph, what's the date of that graph with these?
This was done, this is
the day.
Thursday, September 15th.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Noon to
This,
2.
I got for Saturday as well.
Yeah,
So-
it says noon to 2.
This is showing the 12 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, and then 8 to 10. On a Thursday, during the weeknight, we didn't seem to have, a whole lot of issues. You see very few lots. There was some on-street, there was some red of the on-street spaces, but those lots were not particularly stressed on a Thursday. We then looked at Saturday, and what we found on Saturday was the occupancy at peak time was about 25 spaces greater. We peaked at about 400 spaces occupied versus the 376. One of the interesting things about that, though, is when you look at the heat map for that, we've already got one lot that's in red, first thing during the 10 to 12 circuit. Stays fairly stressed throughout the day. But as we get into the evening hours, 6 to 8, and then during our 8 to 10, we actually had some lots that were above 90% occupied. And it may be hard to see, but the on-street spaces were all showing red as well, which means they were above 90 to 100% occupied. That just may indicate, and again, I'll talk about that in a moment, while people will complain that there isn't sufficient parking because they want to park on the street and those spaces are all occupied. just compare the results of the 2018 versus 2022. And in 2018, we did only a Thursday count. And the percentage occupancy, we did about 60 spaces more in this assessment than we had in 2018. But the percentage occupancy is very close to the same, but you see the percentage or the number of spaces is about 40 spaces greater, the number of spaces occupied at peak time. One of the things, as part of that utilization study, what we did is in on-street spaces where the stalls were marked, we actually record a portion of the license plate number. And when we come around again, we see, is that same vehicle there, or is that space empty, or is that vehicle moved? And what we found was about 14% of the vehicles were staying beyond the 2-hour limit, which means we should see them once, we shouldn't see them a second time if we're coming every 2 hours. And we found about 14% were staying that way. Normally, the maximum that we like to see in terms of violation is 5%. So you're almost 3 times that number. And that number is actually consistent with what we found in 2018, where it was above 14% at that time as well. One of the problems that I just alluded to is if those are employees who are taking those on-street spaces, they're taking space away from a customer, we want to discourage that. Employees should park in the off-street lots and the less convenient portions of the lots to save those spaces available for the customers. But that consistent violation rate, even though the regulation there is they're not supposed to be doing that. A business owner, they get 30 minutes to park on the street, for loading or unloading, and then they're supposed to move their vehicles. But I suspect with the consistency of these numbers that these are actually employees parking on the street. And a lot of business owners are not going to have the time to go out there and chase their employees. I've worked in other communities, and I had one business, if he caught an employee parking in a public lot, he said, "You're gone." There was a designated lot for the employees that was less convenient, and he says, if he caught you in the public lots, you're history. And, it's sad that you have to take that, but, it frustrates the customers. As I mentioned, this is the occupancy, and you'll see the graph on the left just shows the line. We did our counts every 2 hours, and so the dark orange bars represent what we physically observed, and then we extrapolate the hours in between by just taking the midpoint between two things to kind of smooth that graph. The land use that we had in 2022 is about 138,000 square feet of occupied space. We had about 17,000 square feet of vacant space, and that's both ground level and second floor is what we were able to determine. And when you look at, in the demand model, we use factors from the Urban Land Institute Shared Use Manual, and that reflects different uses have peak needs at different times of the day. And the big graph on there, that's the restaurant or the food service. They have a peak around lunchtime, it drops off, and then rises again to the evening hours. You'll see another, it's kind of a inverted U, that's going to be the residential. They'll peak early in the day, they'll leave, and then they'll start to come back again in the evening. And then what some of those other uses are. When you get all these uses kind of marching together, you get a peak need, and here calculated as 382 spaces. And you see what the number that we observed was the 376. So our calculated model versus what we were seeing is very close, which lends confidence in the values that we're using. And you see there how it fits what we're calculating from the model using the shared use, which adjusts the percentage of people there at different times of the day to what we're actually seeing. Now with that, we can take what we call it the parking generation rate, which is the number of spaces needed by type of land use, and it varies from restaurant to retail to office to what have you. And we apply that to the square footage of these, and we calculated here at 297. So again, using this model, it calculated very close to what we see. And we compare that demand to the supply. And initially we do that on a block by block basis. Now there's two numbers that are in this. There's the gross and the net. Gross surplus is simply taking total demand against the total supply on a block, public and private. That to me is not realistic because a private business owner, I've got 10 spaces, I'm using 5. I'm not saying, hey, come and park in my lot. Those are not available to anyone. So what we do is in the net calculation, we take those surplus spaces and we throw them out. They're not available to customers, visitors from an adjoining business, from an adjoining block, and it gives you a sense of what those customers and visitors are really saying. So the gross occupancy on 46% becomes actually an effective occupancy of about 65%. And again, this is looking at a weekday during the daytime. And we've got one block, the block 21 there, which is the one in the middle, has about a 39 space deficit. And the numbers on these maps, those reflect the net number. Weekday evening, that deficit on that one block increases to 58, and the block directly north of it, that has a deficit of 12. And again, that's taking the supply versus the demand. The nice thing is you have surplus on adjoining blocks, which is what you would normally expect. You can park on those adjoining blocks, and you know, it's a very walkable community. As I mentioned before, we had about 17,000 square feet of vacant space. So projecting a future condition, we assume that about 50% of that space would be reoccupied. We didn't have a specific use as to what that was, so we just took the average of what the various uses are, came up with a 2.4 spaces per 1,000 square feet, applied that, and that adds an additional 21. And so within 3 years, our effective occupancy would be about 80%. That's on a weekday evening. In 5 years, we assume 85% of that 17,000. It's not a whole lot of square footage, and so we took a fairly aggressive percentage occupancy of that, and our effective occupancy is about 81%. Now, when we looked at weekend or a Saturday occupancy, existing conditions, there's no demand from office and some of these other uses, so restaurant, music venue would increase, and our demand there would be about that 411 spaces, or 401 spaces. And you see we have deficit again on those same two blocks. We project 3 years, and we're up to 84% occupancy on a weekend Saturday, and again, this is just using reoccupancy as some vacant space. So we're getting pretty close to where that threshold is of perceptually you're going to have a parking problem. And in 5 years, we're at that 85%. Again, I've seen a lot of communities where if it gets close to 100 spaces or above 100 spaces, those blocks would be in red. But you are still getting closer, 79 spaces on one and 11 spaces on the other. And just kind of show what the impact is, the highlighted in yellow is what we just saw. And what I wanted to demonstrate with this chart is if you even take 10 to perhaps many as 50 spaces out of supply, you have a new development comes in and takes these spaces away to the public supply, the effective occupancy, you could get to where you're well above that 85% perceptual occupancy. So it wouldn't take much, you know, if someone comes in and develops something on a piece of property to lose those spaces, and that isn't even calculating the additional demand that would come from that. It's just taking those spaces out of the supply. So just to kind of summarize findings, the good thing is right now your supply does exceed the demand. That's a plus. Within 3 to 5 years, you're going to be approaching that 85% occupancy. Now, there are some things you do. That's not necessarily saying you have to build a garage, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Your supply does exceed the best practice. Your 60% is publicly available. The handicap parking we think is good. The signage, I actually came down and took some photos of that, and I thought that was actually very good. You direct people to where you indicate your public parking. You direct people to public parking, the directional signs. You have signs, the kiosk that are the signs that show what the various parking is around town. You've got that at Children's Park and a few other ones. It's a very walkable, the pedestrian enhancements with the benches. Someone walks, you have those. I saw that. As I mentioned, some of the public lots could use a little work. The bike racks, many of those are the old style that you can only lock the front wheel. And I just did a study in another community, And they had a number of bike racks, and what people were doing is, rather than put them in the bike racks, they would lean them up against buildings where they could see them, particularly when they were doing the outdoor dining. So they were kind of all over the sidewalk instead of where you would want them to be. And there we recommended a different style of bike racks. And then the enforcement is that violation rate is a little high. Some recommendations, it goes without saying, I think we need to increase the level of enforcement. We need to discourage those employees from parking on the street, get them into the off-street lots. One of the things that we can do is lots of private lot owners is they may not want to open their lot up to public parking, but the DDA can work with them and share and say, hey, you've got 10 extra spaces, you know, can I take 5 of those and get some of my employees to park in there? You know, we can come up with a tag or some sort of identity, give you the license plate number so you know who those are, and we'll tell them to park in the back part of your lot. We're trying to use the parking as efficiently as possible. So that's one of the things that we could see. In terms of the parking enforcement, if you're doing it, and we're not suggesting that parking enforcement has to be done all day, every day. In a lot of smaller communities, you can do it on a random basis. You know, don't have a schedule that it's going to be every Tuesday morning, you know, so that everybody knows, but you do it randomly. Maybe it's Tuesday morning this week, then it's Thursday evening, you know, mix it up, and we're trying to discourage that. With that, the fines have to be high enough to discourage that, because if someone's going to get a $10 or $15 ticket and it's once a month, that's my price of parking. You know, that's not a big deal to me for me being able to park essentially at my front door. So one of the things we often recommend is make those fines, make it painful enough that, you know, we want to discourage the behavior. The signs, as I mentioned, were very good, but one of the things that we normally recommend for public lots is identify them. You already do that on some of you've given them kind of name, we'll put that right on the lot. The Shadbolt lot, the Children's Park lot, you know, what have you. That way if someone parks and they're kind of walking around, it's like, oh gee, where did I park? Oh yeah, it said Shadbolt lot. Okay, now I know where to go. As I mentioned, and I just touched on this, you're either going to have to increase the supply or you're going to have to try to use what you have more efficiently. And again, that's getting people, employees out of the public lots, get them into surplus private spaces or even less convenient spaces just outside that core so that those are available to your customers and visitors. One of the things that I've seen, and if you can use some of these private lots, we're doing work in Zeeland, Michigan. And they've made agreements with some churches, and what they do is they share the cost of snow plowing with them. You know, they make an agreement, and, you know, we'll pay a portion of the snow plowing in order to, you know, let us use your lot. And you could have some sort of scale depending on how many days is maybe a portion of what you would pay for that. But again, it's trying to use what you have as efficiently as possible. One of the things that we also recommend is, in order to make sure that the lots are maintained, is the village should set up what we call a sinking fund. You set aside so much money. Normally for an on-street space, that's about $50 or $25. And for an off-street space, it's about $100. What people don't understand is an asphalt lot doesn't last forever. It is eventually going to have to be rebuilt. When our building, the lot for our office building was rebuilt, I talked to the building management company, and he gave me all the cost of what it takes to rebuild those lots, and it worked out to about $1,700 a space. So that's what we recommend, and it has to be rebuilt every 15 to 20 years. So if you're setting aside that $100 a space, when that lot has to be rebuilt, you've got the money available to do it rather than have potholes and the lot falling apart with salt and everything else. It is going to have to eventually be repaired. The zoning ordinance, right now, your restaurant requirement is based on the capacity of the lot. Typically, what we normally find, it's on the square footage. So that's something that we would think to reconsider. And your requirement for residential, it's 2 spaces per dwelling unit. What we're finding more and more is it's 1.5 for a studio, 2 for a dwelling unit, 2.5 for a, 2 for a one-bedroom, 2.5, for a two-bedroom, and then so on. Just to make sure that if you don't, then the onus is on the village to provide those spaces if you allow development to come in to do that. And then lastly, with all the events that you have, one of the things that we would suggest is develop a special event plan. And what that is start thinking about, okay, how many people are going to attend this event? What parking areas can we use in order to support that? Can we make agreements with churches, with businesses that aren't open on that we can park there? And they can also understand that if they want to park, you can have a common sign saying no event parking to keep people out of those lots. But you start thinking of where are we going to put these people when they're coming into our events, and that's something that can be conveyed to the event organizer, and then the village has information on that. So with that, any questions? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Informative.
Yeah,
I have a go ahead, Nate.
how did you treat the spaces that are like 15 minutes or 20 minutes where somebody's going to park, run in, and supposed to come back? And did you count that as a total space or a part-time space, or how was that looked at?
No, one of the things, we recommend if a community, a 15-minute space, there are some businesses that would certainly benefit that. We didn't monitor those specifically.
Okay.
But what you do is, and it's the same thing with enforcement. If you're going to do a short-term space, we normally recommend, one is you limit where they are, two, or the number, two, you put them generally at the beginning or the end of a block, and you clearly indicate that that's a 15-minute space, and it's not reserved for, a particular business. And they're really on the honor system because no enforcement is going to be able to come by and say, check that space every 15 or 30 minutes. It just isn't going to happen. That's why we recommend that you limit them. As I said, there are some businesses that can benefit from that, but it's really on the honor system because you can't actually monitor them. You just don't have the manpower to do that.
Well, I think it becomes more important because we're doing a lot of carry-out.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to park way over here to walk here to get it.
Right.
We do have some of those spots, and I see them open a lot, and sometimes someone's using them. I don't know how long they use them.
Yeah.
And are they listening to what the sign says?
Yeah, I've worked in communities. We did work in a Chicago area community, and there was a pizza restaurant, and he was out there and he was cordoning off the 2 spots in front of his for people running in and picking up. I mean, we had to make the point, he says, that's fine for him, but if you have other businesses that want to do the same thing, you're going to have all these cones and all these spaces that are restricted. It doesn't work. Those are public spaces. You have to discourage that practice.
Right.
The 15-minute spots actually work pretty good. I was going to ask if there should be more of them. So I'm not sure how many we have right now. But, I mean, it does get abused at certain times, especially when the weather's bad. Mm-hmm. Then, people take advantage of them then. Or, sometime it seems like between like 5 and 6 o'clock, people think, oh, it doesn't matter anymore. And so they'll park there then. So that actually hurts a lot of businesses that are in a retail business or like, Hank was talking about carry out. But anyways, my question was, should there be more 15-minute parking spots?
Again, there's no benchmark as to how many there should be. What you have to do is you have to monitor them. And as I said, if you put them in, we generally recommend at the beginning or the end of the block face. And I would say no more than 2 spaces on any block face. And then you try to limit that because again, if it's not being used and I want to park, well, I can't park there because I'm going to be here for an hour.
Did you include those in the handicap spots or no?
I'm sorry.
Did you include the 15-minute spots also as a handicap spot?
Yeah. The handicap spaces were part of the inventory and were evaluated. I mean, I could go into our data and tell you what the occupancy was of the handicap spaces.
Did you say did you also call a 15-minute spot a handicap spot?
No.
Okay.
More questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you bring back up, I'm sorry, the map, one of the parking maps? There was a lot, looked like by the Eman Center, maybe? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's counted as public
For now, I would guess.
parking?
It's not counted as public, it's counted
Yeah,
as
just one-
parking that is available.
The big blue piece?
Where would the Eman Center be? I
The
gotta orient.
Eman Center isn't shown in this map.
It's not.
Oh, no, it's not.
Is there a map, a larger area
Yeah.
in that?
You can see that furniture.
Because, yeah, the red on the left one, the red that looks like it's around a building, and then is that other building the administration building?
There's the blue, above the black line, there's a blue parking lot, that is the school administration building. The
Okay.
green one is the public lot across the
Across.
street from,
Eman.
and then the red is the private.
So what are
Well-
the two red lots all the way over on M24?
Those are
Far
private.
north?
Those are, okay, so one is the,
Use the laser pointer if you'd like.
okay.
Yeah.
This one is Walgreens.
Oh, that's cool.
This one is the credit union. This one is the barn that's in front of the storage unit.
So those aren't counted as public?
Those are, if you look, the red says private.
Okay,
So this is
okay.
just an
Sorry,
inventory of
it's hard
every
to
single
see.
parking space. Yeah,
Okay.
Really,
But
there's,
the blue,
is considered shared.
because it's the administration building, and but then the red, that's private, the green across
Green
from
is
the Eman
public.
Center. Now, won't that go away,
That will go away,
right, with
That
the
will
new
go away.
development? Right?
part of that development.
Right, and then also, the lot across from 313 is for sale. My concern is that you're showing through this study that within 3 to 5 years, we're gonna have a parking problem. I think it can come much sooner than that.
You're right.
So our proactive DDA board is trying to solve that problem.
Yes, we are. So I just want to point that out, that we're gonna have a problem sooner than 3 to 5 years.
And that's the point I was trying to make, by even those
Yeah.
spaces coming out of, I mean, there's
Right.
development that could be happening, you take 10 spaces out in, on some
And I would
conditions.
have loved to have seen June, July, or August. Like, I think that we would have seen some much higher numbers in June, July, or August, too.
One of the things
When
that
the kids go back to school, it just, things do slow down.
Right, yeah.
But, and I'm not saying, that's not your fault. I'm not saying.
I mean, one of the things that I noticed as I was looking at the data, there's the lot that is this public lot here. I was looking at the data,
That's at Flint and Anderson.
and
That's the pet store, or
That was going to be my comment. We know, do we have the number of spaces in that lot right now?
Oh,
yeah, I think that lot is 35 spaces.
Okay, so if you go back to that chart, that's going to bring us closer to the 85th percentile.
yes.
That's the 35. That doesn't include what we're losing across from the Eman Center. Now, they are adding some on-street parking that's going to be public use, and there's public use of that parking lot if there's a public event inside there, but we're going to lose it. So if we lose 35 spaces, that moves the percentile to 86 in,
That's a current weekend evening, you'd be at 86%. Right now, if you take those 30 spaces out. And one of the things that I just wanted to point out was on the Saturday that we did our counts, I was looking at the data and it was showing 0 all day. And I went and looked, my surveyors actually took a picture, that lot was cordoned off, there were tents because they were gonna do something on Sunday. And there was actually a sign there saying no parking from Saturday 9 AM until Monday at 6 AM. So that lot wasn't even available to us on Saturday. which might, to me, it was used fairly well on Thursday. That might have been what some of those other lots were a little more stressed than they might have been because that lot was not available.
That's where we're best.
Yeah. So is the Eman Center parking lot in these numbers or not?
The,
Eman Center is the green,
the one to the north there, that new development,
yeah.
no, we didn't have any development, any square footage values for that. I did look at the data from that. Molly provided that information to me, and it's projected to have 89 residential units, and the requirement right now is 2 spaces per unit.
I think they got away with a little less than that.
I'm sorry?
I think they got away with a little bit less than that.
Well, the data that I showed was only talking about the assembly building, which is about just under 4,000 square feet. And it was saying that the requirement for that was 266 was the expected capacity. Your requirement is 1 space for every 3, and so they projected that as needing 88 spaces. The parking around that development totaled, I think, about 175 spaces between the north flat, the lofts, and then there were some spaces on street, and then what.
I think it was very close to 2. It might not have been exactly 2.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have that data. When we were looking, we were focused on the core because that's where we had the square footage data.
There was no parking or consideration taken with the on-street parking on the west side of M24, right?
No.
Greens Park, that parking area. There actually is a lot of on-street parking, I think, on the west side of 24. Jerry'd probably be able to answer that better than me, but I don't know
The west
if
side?
that's all considered residential parking. I mean, the problem if you park over there, if the downtown is really busy, then you have to cross M24, which, could be another problem, but there is a lot of parking over there, I think,
I've never understood why during an event, we would cross 5,000 people from east to west after the event was done, and 5,000 people from west to east. And I always thought, if those guys would just flip where they park,
Right.
we wouldn't have to cross anybody. It
Because
was always
there
the
is-
same amount of people, and it was just astonishing to me. But and what they were doing is they were going from Greens Park and other parking places. We did improve the center turn lane that would avoid and turn that into a mid-street crossing. And MDOT did pay for and install a traffic light that. That was there more for the parking for our boats, our boat docks, which is kind of restricted as well, so.
We call that Hank's Crossing.
Yeah, Hank's Crossing, yeah. Hank was the first person hit there. No, I'm just kidding. But there really isn't effective public parking across the street. We have
Yeah,
Greens
not like
Park,
we did it on this side.
and I think that takes, 7 compact cars and 8 motorcycles.
Because there is that one parking lot behind the church, that's behind Muffler Man.
Yeah.
There's a parking lot there.
And realistically,
And
they
there's all
do
the
get
parking
used,
lots.
right? They do get, I've seen people park there and walk downtown.
Yeah,
Because depending on where you want to go, it's actually shorter to cross at Flint and M24
Right.
than it is to park.
we just don't really encourage it or advertise it. So. And I know it's not part of the map.
And I know the village has pushed, farther west down Shadbowl Street. We've improved the right-of-way. Some of that was done when Mr. McCleary was here before. We've added spaces there. We've even sneaked a little bit east down Flint Street. We kept getting a little farther down there. But we're running out of those spaces where we can just add more by improving the right-of-ways. So it's really, I think, I was on, I don't mean to, but I was on previous parking committees. I was on the committee to do the 2018 thing. I've been watching this. I used to be the chief here. And I've been watching this for years, and that 85th percentile has been sneaking up on us for so many years. And we have to, I just can't say this enough. I've been saying it for 20 years. I think we can't ignore it any longer. And no matter what plan we pull the trigger on today, it's not going to be effective parking for 3 to 5 years. So 3 to 5 years, if nothing changes, puts us at the 93 percentile. And that's not effective marketing for our DDA and for our downtown community to say, come to Lake Orion. And it's happening. There's nothing worse than come to Lake Orion, but sorry, go away, there's no place to park. And I'm just solidly behind doing something before we hit red. Again.
Thank you. Any more comments, questions?
I have something I'd like to say. Captain, hopefully, like Ryan resident.
Come speak in the mic, please.
He's good.
From that side.
Very good, thank you. Thank you. I do believe, like a lot of the comments, that we're going to have parking issues within the 3-year program, the 3 years following. And Elena Campbell had hit it on the head about that one possible 44 West Flint is scheduled for development, so they'll push it. But as a matter of accuracy, in my quick review that I just saw tonight, the first map, I don't think, showed the Slater lots behind the Methodist Church. If it did, it shows them as shared, not as public. And also, it didn't include, and I believe there are shared agreements with Caruso, and then also a lumberyard. And it didn't have those on map 1, but it appeared to me as if it might be on map 2. I'd just tighten that up a little bit and do a better review. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Is that it?
If I could, one more thing. What would have been nice possibly, because it's always been a concern and discussion, is lighting. In the future, I know you guys, you quit at 6 p.m., 8 p.m., what was it? Yeah, but something like that would be helpful as well, to have helped us with addressing that and just take a look. But thank you.
Cool, thanks. All set? Thank you, appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Will that be emailed to me? Do I have that yet? Do I have
The
this one?
presentation? No, I can get it to you.
Okay, all right.
Okay, at this time, we welcome public comment. Each person is allowed 3 minutes. The public is welcome to provide public comment. This board will not respond to any public comment. The board will follow up as necessary. Please direct all your comments to the vice chairperson only, and please state your name and address. I think we have each person here for public comment.
It's not about the parking, but it's general DDA.
Perfect,
Yep,
thank you.
that's
all right?
fine, yep, that's
Okay.
good.
Love it.
Scott Gabriel, this is going to be all preaching to the choir here, because we all know these numbers, but hopefully this reaches some of the public and gets published somewhere. So, say tomorrow the DDA dissolves. This is what's going to happen. You're not going to lose, or your taxes are not going to go down 1 penny. Instead, $158,000 is going to go back to the county for villages such as Ferndale, the colleges, wherever they do with it. The township tax capture, remember, some of our DDA money comes from the township. $191,000 comes from the township. That'll go away. $54,000 will go back to the OCC. $7,000 will go back to Huron Clinton Parks. The state does a little partial reimbursement for $12,000. So all that will go away. It'll go back to the other people. Your taxes will remain exactly the same. Dissolving the DDA will not save you a dime, me a dime. I'm a township taxpayer myself. And the second point of that, if we don't capture the lumberyard, so okay, that doesn't work, the voters vote it down, whatever happens, that is still for sale. It will be for sale. It is for sale. It is zoned commercial. It's a lumberyard, which means I can go there, I can buy that tomorrow, and I can put a cement plant there. I can put a garbage transfer station there. You have no control of what I put there because it is zoned. I don't even have to go in front of the zoning board. It is correct in its zoning. There'll be no public comment. I can do with it what I want as long as I stay exactly in the zoning. If the DDA gets it, you will have exemplary public control. The DDA will control it. The DDA is controlled by public people. I was at a board meeting last week.
Yep.
And we had a lot of public comments from a presentation a couple months ago about what we could do with it. We're still batting it around. There's still a lot of public comment to go. It can be a parkland. It can have farmer's market on there. It can have mixed use. There's a lot of things. But the point is, if the DDA does not get this, just like the township got Camp Agawam. Camp Agawam could have been, hundreds of Bigfoot houses we'd love to see. But now it's a camp. If the DDA doesn't get this, they could put 120 more units, 140 more units, I think, in of residential apartments. There goes our parking. So hopefully this gets back to the public. I can't be at the meeting tomorrow. I'd love to say it again, but I gotta go pick up a trailer. So hopefully this gets out, and all these things, this is public knowledge. I didn't pull this out of nowhere. This is straight public knowledge.
Thank you, I appreciate your comments. Anybody else? Okay, that ends public comment. So next, we go to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are approved by one vote. There are 5 items listed. I'll go over the first one is DDA roster on page 20 in your packet. Director's report, page 24 in your packet. Committee minutes and work plan and event update on page 39 in your packet. The annual audit presentation, I think there's an error here. I think it should say for year end 2021, 2022. Okay, page 52 in your packet. And then financial reports, page 72 in your packet.
Motion to approve consent agenda?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next will be financial matters. So I'm going to probably do
No,
roll.
approval of agenda.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
And I have a change I
Yes.
would like to request.
Approval of the agenda, yes.
Okay, I would like us to please add, update Lake Orion Lumberyard due diligence to, item number 9, new and old business. Could it please be added as item number 3? And that will, that is because we've decided that we don't need to do a closed session, so this is instead of a closed session.
Motion to approve lumberyard due diligence under item 9, new and old business as number 3, and remove reference to closed session in section 12.
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So now we go on to financial matters. Sorry about that. And I'm going to do a roll call for all those
Do we need
items.
another motion to approve the agenda?
Oh, I guess we do we? Need another motion to approve the agenda as changed?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that carries. And now officially, the financial matters. There are 5 items. I'm going to do roll call for all 5, just to make it easier on my end, okay? So the first one will be bill approval. It's in page 80 of your packet, but the invoice register starts on page 85.
Motion to approve disbursements in the amount of $44,843.35 for December 2022.
Support.
All those in favor?
Now you
Oh,
ask for discussion?
Discussion, I'm sorry, discussion.
And then you can ask for roll call.
And let's do a roll call then if there's no discussion.
Cole.
Yes.
Marsh,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Caruso,
Yes.
Morant,
Yes.
Shell.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, next item will be Lake Orion Lumberyard Project, Phase 2 environmental invoice, page 87 in your packet.
Motion to authorize payment of AKT Peerless invoice 69323 for Phase 2 environmental testing at 215 South Broadway, not to exceed $10,769.45 from 248-730-975-006 capital outlay parking.
Support.
Could we please amend that to include pending receiving the report? We've received verbal information and they're waiting on lab results, and when we get the report, if you could change that to pending.
So motion amended to require the report.
Support.
Roll call, please, Susan.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Narsch,
Yes.
sorry, Campbell,
Yes.
Caruso,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Show.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Next one will be budget adjustment for the trolley maintenance, page 91 in your packet.
All right, so budgeting wise, we don't need to make a budget amendment. And what I'm recommending is that we review this again in April to really see sponsorship funds versus trolley expenses, to see if we need to move funds around. But right now, we don't need to do anything. And later on, I do have another update for the trolley that I can do that. I'll do that later, I promise. I know you're all interested in knowing.
So motion to receive and file?
Yes.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next one would be the Main Street Now Conference attendee request. That'd be Molly alone, Ms. Alone.
Yeah, this is to go to the Main Street Now conference. It will be in Boston. Our expenses total for 2 people will be $4,346. The budget, what we have in the budget is a little over, it's about $4,400, so we can just squeak this in. And I want to remind you that Kelly from Oxford and myself, we are presenting at this conference, so we definitely want to go.
Looking forward to that.
Motion to authorize Director Lalone and Township Supervisor Barnett as attendees to the 2023 Main Street Now Conference and authorize total expenses not to exceed $4,500 for registration and travel expenses.
Support.
Roll call, please. Or no discussion necessary?
No, roll call.
Okay, roll call.
All right, Narsch,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Caruso,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Show.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Item 5 would be DDA preliminary 2023-2024 budget, page 94 in your packet.
All right. I put together a tentative workshop schedule. I haven't received confirmation from everybody. Are there any dates here that, I know that January 31st is a problem for one person, but are we kind of okay with this workshop schedule?
I'm not available on Monday, the 13th, but otherwise, looks okay.
Okay.
I'm not available on the 31st. Am I the one you knew about?
No, I'm not. No. Okay. All right. Okay. So the 31st might get rescheduled, but otherwise, the 7th, that's after our evaluation day dinner. We'll just keep working. The 13th, Monday the 13th, what Village Council President has requested is that there's a bond request workshop that happens before their regular meeting. And he's requested that the board come so that we can talk to them about our bond. Is this correct? Yeah, okay. And then the bond request will be on Monday the 13th at 7:30. That'll be when Village Council. So I'm really hoping that we can have some board member presence to be able to answer questions and to talk to them about a project.
I'd like to see continuing education. It helps really to service our residents in this community. Congratulations to those 3. Also, on the Dodge Ram pickup for the building department, being the building rep, I'll lead into this for Dave, our director. Instead of having the leases expiring on that, and the way the economy is right now and fluctuation in the vehicles, it makes common sense to just go ahead and purchase the lease on that. And also, the fire department too is replacing much needed used pickup. And also, you got the electrical, plumbing, and mechanical new contracts, so good job in all you guys and ladies.
All right, thank you. I'm glad Tammy's getting some help in the planning and zoning department. I know she really needs it, could use it, so
And as we discussed in the budget process and approval of the budget, the positions that are new will come back to the board like this before they are posted. So this is the first of those. So are there any other comments or questions from board members? Any public comment on any of these items? Seeing no one rush forward, Clerk Schultz, would you please call the roll?
Bernie?
Yes.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Flood?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Barnett?
Yes.
Schultz, yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Next item is pending business. And tonight, just like similar to last week, we have very little on our pending business, like last meeting, I should say. We're so busy leading up to the end of the year with calendar year budgets and things like that, so it's nice to not have crazy huge dockets. Tonight, we have one item on our pending business, and that is appointing and filling the vacancy of Township Trustee. As you see, we are 6, and we want to be 7. The board, at our meeting in December, appointed a committee, and the reason we have this situation is, as we all know, former Treasurer Steele is now State Representative Steele. Former Trustee Urbanowski is now Treasurer Urbanowski, and so we have a vacancy. The board appointed a committee to review applications, and we did that because we weren't sure at the time if we were going to receive 2 or 3 applicants or 50, and we received 12. So we had the opening for a few weeks. We published all over social media, the newspaper, smoke signals, and all of those good things. We were really blessed to have 12 residents that were willing to step up and fill in the gap for the remainder of the 2 years, just under 2 years, vacancy on this board for trustee. I'll tell you a little bit about the process, and then I'll let our attorney explain to us, so we are all on the same page, and the residents that are here and watching from home, what our role is as a township board. But what we did with these 12 applicants, the committee of the 3 full-time electeds, one director and chief of staff interviewed all 12 last week, and then the 3 final candidates, the top three based on our scoring and interviews from last week, were brought back for second interviews today with the other 3 board members. So, and then one of those applicants had to withdraw due to work commitments, was not able to make the time, commit to the time that would be required to serve on this board. So the 2 finalists were interviewed. They're both here tonight. And so thank you, first of all, to everyone that applied. We are in a tough position of having amazing people, some of us that have really met for the first time through this process, but that are willing to step up and serve our community. So that's a great issue to have when we get to pick from 12. It's also difficult, and we're in a tough spot. So that's kind of where we're at. The goal is that we make a decision, and I'm going to let our attorney explain why that's important. So talk a little bit about our role as a board and what we need to do, and if we don't, what happens, please.
Sure. Well, very quickly, in light of the vacancy in the trustee position, the board must appoint a new trustee within 45 days. So under this timeline, it would be required by February 4th that the board select the new trustee. It's by a majority vote of the board members present. So tonight, it would be 4 votes. It would be for the remainder of the term, which expires November 24th, 2024. 20, all right, sorry about that. So roughly just under about 1 year and 10 months. Other than that, the law really doesn't dictate anything in terms of a process other than by a majority of the board, so.
Okay, so we've had the opportunity, yes.
So once this appointment is made, whichever candidate is selected, is it okay to swear them in at the next board meeting in case they want to bring their family back? And before they would take the position as that, they would just be effective today's date? Do they just have to take the oath before they actually sit in the role, or do I have to do it tonight?
Yeah, I think your next board meeting is February 6th.
Yes, sir.
So that would be after the cutoff. So they should be sworn in before February 4th.
Okay.
They can still have a ceremony or a ceremonial swear-in, but the actual swear-in should take place before February 4th.
Very good, thank you.
All right, so, like I said, that we had, yes, Mr. Flood, we had 2 finalists come back in today. Mr. Flood,
Mr. Supervisor, I'm prepared to make a motion,
okay?
and it is a very difficult motion because of the excellent candidates that we interviewed. I move to appoint immediately Matthew Pfeiffer to fill the vacancy on the Township Board as trustee with a position to remain the term expiring November 20th, 2024, with a comment after my motion.
Support.
Go ahead with your comment, Mr. Flood.
I see both applicants sitting out here, and I want to tell you what, it was a tough decision. Very, very, very tough. This has been my 3rd time I've had the privilege of serving on this board, of having to replace a trustee through the same process. It's not easy. One thing we want to do as this board is be very prudent with our residents' taxpayer dollars. We are not going into a special election and spend $60,000, $75,000 to hold a special election in May. The law, like our attorney said, we can do that here because that time is, we got that lag time before the next election. And that's happened here 3 or 4 times since I had the pleasure of sitting around the board. I just want to give everybody, 12 candidates who put their names in, thank you. For the folks who didn't get selected, we have numerous committees, boards, and commissions on the township. Take the time, put your applications in, and serve your community. And the main reason I made the motion, for Mr. Pfeiffer, is I'm a big proponent of someone who's already served our community. I was fortunate back in 2011, that was one of my things that helped me, I believe, get appointed to the board, was my involvement in my community. You kind of prove yourself a little bit in your leadership. So, but in 2 years, there's going to be an election, so, and all these positions up here will be up for election, so feel free to get out there. We need new blood to continue on what we're doing up here. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members?
I respect the process. We had 12 candidates who were interested in being on the Board of Trustees, and the interview process was good. We were able to get a lot of information, and everyone had the same theme. They all care about the community, and they're glad they're here. So I look forward to working with some of those 12 who would just want to step up and get on committees and be a part of the township in a greater way. And thank you so much for the 12 candidates who did apply. And I want to thank Tammy Gerling publicly, too. I know I told her that personally when I talked to her, but man, she's busy, and she took the time to be able to be a part of that interview process, and I value and respect your input. Thank you. Sam Timko as well. I know as Chief of Staff, you're very involved in the community, and it was good to get your input.
Yeah, I would say, Matt and Larry, thank you, and to the other 10. Yeah, it's a tough decision when you have so many great people. And it was interesting because of the 12, I personally met, I think, 8 of them maybe for the first time through this process, which was unique because last time we had a vacancy and we picked Julia at that time. We had a lot of, I would say, very well-known like community activists that threw their head in. And this time we had a lot of fresh blood, which was awesome. And every person that applied that wasn't selected, if this is successful, is getting, we're thanking them for their willingness, but we're also letting them know about all our great committees because I agree with what you said, Mike. I mean, the community is remarkable because of our people and the people that step up and volunteer. So agree with a tough decision with some amazing candidates. And I just wanted to say to you gentlemen here today, both thank you, and to everyone else, if you're watching from home, that put your name in the ring, we thank you. So is there any public comment at this time? We always offer public comment on our items. Seeing no one rush forward, and I don't see anyone else on the board with their hand up, Let's do a roll call vote, please. The motion was to appoint Matt Pfeiffer, effective immediately, to fill the board vacancy through November 20th, 2024.
Schultz, yes. Barnett?
Yes.
Urbanowski?
Yes.
Flood?
Yes.
Dalrymple?
Yes.
Bernie?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Let's get you sworn in.
Congratulations.
Can someone get a
That's a-
picture?
maybe
I got
so.
it. All right. For Sam, you want to do
We'd
it?
have to put a tie on now, buddy.
You want your kids here too? That
We can do something at another meeting as
the
well.
logo? Yeah. Okay. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Orion Township trustee
of Orion Township trustee
in Oakland County,
in Oakland County,
state of Michigan,
state of Michigan,
according to the very best of my ability,
according to the very best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If
Thank
you'd
you
be so
very
kind to sign right here. Move that up for you. Thank you, sir. Right.
Congratulations.
HR will want to see you.
Thank you.
Uncle Matt. See right up there.
Yeah.
All right. And again, thank you. It's, as Mike said, yeah, we have an election and we might start hearing about it soon, actually, but in a year and a half. But it was awesome to see a lot of new people stepping up and being willing to fill the void. And I hope those that weren't selected, because we could only pick one, aren't too discouraged and are interested in engaging, because the one thing we were really unanimous on was just the unique snapshot of residents from all ages and backgrounds and parts of the community that we're willing to serve, which was cool. So the future is bright. Thank you. And believe it or not, that completes the pending business for tonight. And we have two reports, these are reports we have every month. First, the police and fire report.
I move to receive and file the police and fire report.
Support.
Okay, moved by Bernie and supported by Dalrymple. I don't know, I think maybe Flood too, but thank you, Chief Duke and Lieutenant Ophira, for all your hard work. You can see this on the website, but they've been busy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Next, our financial reports, page 251.
Okay, so I move to receive and file the financial reports as presented with just a brief comment.
Support.
And my comments are, thank you, Tandem Graves, our county controller, for this update to the board. If you need information, the public or the board members, please contact Tandem Graves. She will also give a report out to the board at our next meeting regarding the chart of accounts that have been updated through the system, and it's just nice to get that update and know that that is in compliance. So we are doing well in our finance team, and I really appreciate all the hard work that they do behind the scenes.
Okay. It was moved and supported. Any other questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that takes us back to public comment. Anyone that hasn't got a chance to speak or that wants to speak and speak with our board, is there anyone that would like to address the board at this time?
I would like to, if I may.
Sure.
I just want to thank all of you. Thank you guys and Tammy and Samantha for, the process and the opportunity. And I greatly appreciate, take this seriously, appreciate the opportunity that you guys are giving me and the responsibility that goes with it. And big fan of our township, as you all know, and I really look forward to learning from all of you and being a part of, hopefully, well, not hopefully, being a part of the team. So thank you very much for your support. I'm extremely humbled that you guys chose me, and it means a lot. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. All right, anyone else want to give public comment at this time? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back up to the board. We'll start with Julia tonight.
Really quickly, I just wanted to say thank you to the fire department. Last Friday was sellout for soldiers at the high school, and this year we added the ladder truck to come out with the amazing flag that went up early in the morning at 6:30. They arrived very early to get that done for us, so when students came over the hill from Scripps and from Stadium, you saw the flag with the light at the end, and it was beautiful to see that morning. So thank you again so much to all of you guys for making that happen. And then, as usual, we are still feeding families every single Monday out at Forgotten Harvest. Because of the holiday yesterday, I did get to jump on the line yesterday, which was great to be back out there. And we are still feeding you, so if you are in need of food or you know someone who is, please reach out and we will help get you all of the things that we can do for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Penny.
Mr. Sack, I'm very glad to meet you, sir. It was good to interview with you, and I hope I see you engaged in the community, and we appreciate your effort and your time, most definitely. Also, I would like to just put out an SOS. We need pastors to lead the invocation or people in your church that have a desire to pray. You can pray at our board meetings. It's usually about a 10-minute commitment. Come in 5 minutes before the board meeting starts, and before the Pledge of Allegiance, share a prayer, and then you're free to go right after. So send out an SOS, let your church leaders know. Anybody who'd like to pray, they can reach me at email or stop by the clerk's office. And congratulations, Matt Pfeiffer. I'm looking forward to working with you. This is a fantastic board, and I know everybody works really hard. Chris, you do well with leadership, and I'm sure this board will have a little bit of settling in, maybe a little bit of growing pains, but we'll all overcome those things, and we'll work together as a group, as a board. It's also good to see the chamber here, the Women in Business Conference. Those are so good. I really appreciate that you're doing that for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim?
Yeah, I would also like to say thank you to both of you for volunteering your time to come and interview for this position. It was really nice to, I know you, but Mr. Sack, it was really nice meeting you as well, and I hope to see you out in the community. Joyce, thank you very much for coming and bringing my 1099 tax time, just so. But I do want to say one thing serious. So a lot of you know that I do a lot of work with NOCC, North Oakland Community Coalition, and one of the important things in my list of things to pay attention to is suicide prevention. And on the 31st of this month, NOCC will be providing suicide prevention training at the Orion Township Public Library. It's free. It's in the evening, 6 to 7:30, but in order to participate, they would like your registration, please, at noccmi.org.
All right. Mr. Flood?
Yes, as I said in my comment there on the motion, these are tough decisions to make, and we have all the most respect for all candidates. And Mr. Sachs, it was a pleasure meeting you, sir, again. And I want to compliment to our consultants for coming in today and giving us that 50,000-foot thing on Lansing. You guys are going to be busy this year. And do us a favor and keep this Donnie Steele on feet to the fire.
You're right.
And also our fine Chamber of Commerce Director. With a sad note, and I'm going to try to do this without crying. On behalf of this township board, we want to send our sympathy and condolences to our fine Lillian Hutchinson, who shows up religiously at most of our meetings for well over 10, 12 years. She lost her beloved husband, Jack. We know he's in a better place, and I know he's walking with Jesus on his side. We love you. Sorry, that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Burning?
I just wanted to comment on the Sellout for Soldiers. That was the first time I was ever had the opportunity to go. I couldn't stay for lots of the fun, but Mrs. D was very gracious and showed my daughter around that's going to be going to Lake Orion next year. Showed her the ropes, and what an amazing event that the school puts on. So very proud to see that. Very proud to see the flag when we walked in, thanks to the fire department and all the police officers that were there. So again, just kudos to everyone, hats off. I mean, I've heard about this event for years, but I never had the opportunity to go. Kim and I were there for a short time, and it was very impressive. And even just seeing the kids work so hard, and I walked in and there's a young man on top of a table waving a flag. Like, it was just really cool. I mean, especially for a veteran, and I was just really proud to walk into that. So good job to all of you, that whoever does it all. I'm sure you have a lot to do with it, so congratulations on that.
Lori Hogan and Amy Redmond, shout out to them.
Okay, well, shout out to the whole school, because everyone did an awesome job, so can't wait till next year.
All right. A few things for me tonight. I'll have it on the next agenda, but I'd like to have the board entertain canceling the April 17th meeting if we have enough interest in people attending the annual Michigan Townships Association Conference. Treasurer Urbanowski and I were speaking about it this afternoon, and if we're not going to have a quorum, it'd be nice to know ahead of time. Please reply to the email from Julie Savard to find out if you're interested, and if there are obviously at least 3 or 4 of us going, we will likely cancel the April 17th meeting because we won't have a quorum, and that's a very important educational opportunity with the ever-changing dynamic of Lansing to keep our board.
Can we just go ahead and make a motion and cancel it now?
I mean, I'm good. I just wanted to,
Yeah.
if there's only 2 of us that are going to be
Because
going.
most of the board goes to this and the consultants. Let's just make a motion and cancel it.
I
I move to cancel that April 17th board meeting.
Okay, it's done. Okay. Thank you.
Want to roll on?
So it was moved by Schultz, supported by Bernie.
To cancel the April 17th board meeting.
Yep.
Yeah. Bernie.
Yes.
Dalrymple.
Yes.
Flood.
Yes.
Urbanowski.
Yes.
Burnett.
Yes.
Schultz, yes.
Sure that.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. That was easy. This is kind of cool. On our website, if you haven't driven by GM, you should. It's wild, the progress. But we also, and this is not very good at night, but it's here and to the day you can watch. But there's a camera on our water tower. You can see the progress of the project, and it is moving expeditiously, as they'd say. We're super excited about it. We're also really grateful. We sent out a press release a week or so ago announcing the $7 million in federal funding we received from Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin's office. I want to publicly thank her. I believe Channel 4's in the lobby to talk about this after our meeting. But we are grateful for the support of Congresswoman Slotkin in helping us secure $7 million, which she received over 90 community project funding requests, and we were the only one that was fully funded at the requested dollar amount, and the next closest one to us was under $1 million. So to get $7 million from one congressperson was a remarkable accomplishment. And also thanks to the team at Midwest who's helping us fill in the rest of the gaps with this new legislature in Lansing. And then everyone is talking, but the date you want to put on your calendar, January 26th, Meijer's opening. And if we get more pings on when is Meijer opening, I think that's the #1 asked question in the last 2 months. January 26th, 6 a.m. You can be one of the first people there. Matter of fact, in the mail today, I got something that I can save $100. I'm sure probably every Orion resident got that. So, and then I just wanted to share, we do an annual presentation here on all the great things happening in our community. And just to save the date, teaser for you, Wednesday, March 22nd. I think this will be our 5th year working in partnership with Woodside across the street. We choose that venue because they can host a few hundred people, and they have all the audio and visual things we need. And they're great partners of ours, and not only on the food truck, but on this event. And that will be open to the public. It'll be televised live, and it will be fun. And I don't know if you can tell the theme, but should be able to.
Not gonna be Star Wars this year again?
Not Star Wars. And I just want to say thank you to the 12. Larry, you're here, thank you, and to the rest. It really is, it's remarkable when we see, while I know there's some people probably disappointed, we see what happens in communities around us when they have vacancies, and it hasn't been really pretty. And it's nice to see the board come together and work together, and thank you to Tammy and Sam as well for your assistance in this process. And that's it. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:55.
So moved.
Flood, Dalrymple, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Left, move, and see if we can get our development to be compatible with the conditions at the site. Then, you know, the reason I struck the word and said we want to address the environmental issues is sometimes when you know you have certain soil conditions and you may want to get rid of some of those soil conditions by way of dig and haul off-site disposal, you wait till you're doing your project because you're mobilizing the same equipment. You know, so a lot of times I'll wait and I'll do environmental work while I'm beginning the construction because it's the same thing. You're removing, you know, top layers of soil and whatnot. So we'll try to coordinate that for you as well.
So motion to proceed with pursuit of a BEA, including supplemental report for potential hurdles for the lumberyard property at a cost not to exceed $6,000 from account.
Support.
What account?
Any discussion? We had discussion. Any more discussion?
Well, I would appreciate it if you said I was as interesting as the parking analysis.
Do we need to specify an account?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you said. Please use, one moment, please. $248-730-975-006 capital outlay parking.
Do you need me to repeat that? Or can I just say that account?
Yeah, 248-730-975-006.
Okay.
Definitely need a roll call, Susan, for this, since there's money involved.
Laurent,
Yes.
Narsch,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Caruso,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Shell.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much for allowing me to bring you this presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so now we go on to reports, resolutions, recommendations, executive report. Ms. Lalone.
All right. I'll do my verbal report first, and then I'll address the things that I added to the packet. First thing I want to give you an update on is the electrical vehicle charging stations. They have been physically installed, although there is one part that they're still waiting on. And they've also suggested that we should add bollards, so that'll be in addition to what we're waiting on those two things. We're waiting on those two things. Also, today, I got the instructions for all of the software. So that is, that's the second stage is the getting the software activated and working. And I'll be working with, they requested that Wes be involved, the DPW director. I actually would like to form a committee and add, just a small committee of board members just to kind of review what we're doing with the charging station. I mean, I have some guidelines that I think we could look at, but I would like some board member input, please. And I'll send out an email. I'm just looking for 3 people to kind of go over the charging stations, and we need to think about, you know, what we want it to look like. We can wrap this with some graphics. So what do we want this to look like? What do we want to charge? When do we want to charge? What kind of PR, you know, what's our PR? What do we want to do? So that's what I'm looking for in the committee. So let me know after the meeting if you're interested. Oh, Hank is interested. Thank you.
I will as well.
And Dr. Sam, thank you. And okay, there's my 3. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, that's charging stations. Now we're moving on to events. Tomorrow night is the sponsor reception. It will be at the 313 Pizza Bar. It's going to be upstairs. We had 12 events plus the Stronger Together promotion that we did with the trolley. Over 10,000 people attended. Our social media posts reached over 7,000 people, and there was a total contribution as of December, total contribution of over $33,000, which was 84% of the fundraising goal. We'll be having dinner. There will be visual displays. Our brand new sponsorship book will be out. There's a slideshow, and obviously good food at 313 Pizza. So I'm very happy about that. I'm happy to see everybody there. The local lens contest is going on right now. We have some sponsors for it. This is the first time we've had sponsors for this contest. And for those of you who are not aware of the Local Lens Contest, it is a photography and art contest, and we, every week, they judge and award somebody from what's been submitted during that week. Our sponsors are JVD Portraits, Lisa Ann Salon, Orion Art Center, and the Patch Boys. I want to thank all of them for being sponsors. As a sponsor, they get to review the pictures of that week, or the submissions for that week. So for week 1, JVD Portraits awarded Ada Stone. She was the winner of the contest for that week. And then last week, Lisa Ann from Lisa Ann Salon awarded Joe Johnson, which he's our local celebrity, Joe Johnson, behind the camera there. He submitted some very nice photos for us. If you would like to be part of that contest, it is #LocalLens2023 or #LOLens2023. You can submit those photographs and art pieces on Facebook or on Instagram. And every week they look at it, and those judges will make a decision. Ice Fest is happening in February. That goes through the end of the month. That gets us through the end of January. Then in February, starting February 2nd, we will have live ice carving happening again in downtown. I want to thank the live ice carving sponsors. First one is Meyer, and they have sponsored a live ice carving with a Stronger Together theme. Second is Flip Spot Gymnastics. They have sponsored a live ice carving with a sports theme. The third week is Coal Carbide. They have sponsored a live ice carving with a logo theme. It's kind of a logo and Stronger Together theme. And then the fourth week, Most Sherry has sponsored a live ice carving with a retro movies theme. There will be a total of 17 ice carvings in downtown throughout the month of February, and an additional 8 to 10 in Oxford. And the trolley will be running in February.
Let's pray for cold weather.
Trolley, did I say trolley? Yes, I did. I have news about the trolley. The trolley went to public auction at the beginning of this month. Smart put it up for public auction. They said, this trolley's too old, we don't love it anymore. But Oxford loves the trolley, and Oxford bought it. And they won the public auction. They have spent a little over $6,000 for the trolley. The first thing that's going to happen is it's going to go to the mechanic so that we can fix the things that need to be fixed. Thank you, Oxford DDA and Kelly Westbrook, the director. Thank you for getting us our trolley. And thank you, Lake Orion DDA Board, for helping fund the maintenance and the repairs that are needed. As long as I'm saying thank you, I have a few more people to say thank you to. First one is Linda Crane. Linda Crane is a design committee volunteer, but she's also been working in the office, and she's been our admin for about 3 weeks, and she's been so valuable, and I want to thank her very much for doing that. It's made a huge difference. We also have a new committee member. Her name is Jen Zielinski. She's with Live, Common Citizen, and she has joined our organization committee, and we're delighted to have her. I want to welcome Jerry Narsh. This is his first DDA board meeting. Jerry Narsh has been involved in this community for ages and ages and ages, and he's definitely going to be an asset to our board, and we're very happy to have you here, Jerry. And lastly, it is my pleasure, my extreme pleasure, to welcome Diane Coaches, our brand new administrative coordinator. She'll be starting next week. Please come say hi. All right. On page 49 of your packet, there are some vision statement notes. We need to make changes to our vision statement to update it with what we're doing, because it doesn't really, our statement was created several years ago, and it doesn't reflect what we're doing now. So it's going to reflect what we're doing now. And also for Main Street accreditation, they have requested that we add economic development strategies. And if you look at page 51, there's a one-page quick reference guide that kind of goes over what those different economic strategies could be. And the organization committee they put dots next to 3 of them that they thought may fit. Our evaluation with Main Street is going to be February 7th. We're going to talk to them about this process. This is brand new. This is a new process that they are requesting as part of our accreditation. So we're going to ask for guidance. But meanwhile, do your homework. There's the vision statement and those economic development strategies. You can just look at those. On page 21 in the packet, you'll find the brand new roster, which includes all of our brand new board members. And then, again, just as a refresher, the board meeting our evaluation meeting is on the 7th, and the evaluation agenda day, the day's agenda is on page 131. All right. We have a lot of dates coming up. If you look on page 38, that's the last page of the director's report. This has all of our upcoming board meetings. And then on page 94, you can cross off the first one, the January 1st budget workshop, but the rest of them are on that page. So if you need to refer back so you can put those in your calendar, there they are. All right, and that's my verbal report. On page 112, as part of redevelopment ready certification, the DDA board adopted the Village of Lake Orion Development Training Strategy. You guys have received modules just like this one for pop-up placemaking, one for minus minimums. In November, we had Capital Improvement Plans A, and this is Capital Improvement Plans B. It's a good resource. Take a look. If you have questions or comments on that, please comment at the next meeting. And then, like I said before, the Main Street evaluation is February 7th. I've been talking about this a bit. Jackie Sweetheart is the program officer for revitalization services. She's from Main Street America. She's new to me. which means she's new to you, and she's from California. She and Tim will be coming by. Our agenda looks different in part because this is her suggested format, and two, because Main Street America has put together a brand new accreditation requirements, and this is kind of reflecting those different requirements. That is all. Thank you.
Excellent. Next would be Village Manager Darwin McCleary.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple things real quick. Molly and I are going to be working to get a meeting set up with bond counsel and the financial advisor to discuss the DDA, the downtown development bonds. Hopefully within the next week, we will be able to meet with them to talk more about the next steps in the process. I know that many of you watched the last council meeting and the comments that that occurred at the last meeting, and where we are at administratively with the issue of the status of the petition that was submitted regarding the DDA. Is that it is still a work in progress for us. There are a number of legal questions surrounding the petition and the status of the petition. I know that previously the village attorney had requested guidance from the township attorney as far as the role of the township in elections and handling petition submissions, and my understanding is that we did not get a response on those questions. I requested that the village attorney draft a letter that outlines all of the legal questions that we have regarding the submission of petitions, referendary petitions, the role of the township clerk in handling village elections. We have many questions. And to submit that letter to me for review, and then we will forward it on to our state senator to request that our state senator ask for a legal opinion from the Attorney General's office. The questions that we have are really of statewide importance and significance, and we are confident that that our state senator will submit those questions and that the Attorney General's office will respond to us. So hopefully we will get those answers timely, and then we can start to make some final determinations on what the status of the petition is and how we need to proceed with it, whether it's sufficient, whether it was timely, whether the signatures are still valid or stale. There's a number of questions that we still need to get answered on that. As we get more information on it, I will keep you posted on the status of that. So that is all I have for tonight, other than I love being back and I love working with Molly. So anyway, that's all I have for tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Those are some pretty important topics legally to get those things done properly and correctly, so we appreciate that. One more call to the public. No more, okay. And then closed session's done. How about board comments and training feedback? We'll start with the far right end. Is it okay to start with Jerry? Is that okay?
New guy. Yeah.
New guy.
Thank you.
New guy.
No, it is great to be a part of this team. It's a team of volunteers, just like council, but it's a team of volunteers, and people forget that. And they come in here, business owners, you guys are all busy. If you have a business, you're doing those, and you're coming in here volunteering. And when you look at the village of Lake Quarry and the success we have downtown, you're doing amazing. So I'm really proud and honored to be a part of this group, because our downtown is the envy of a lot of communities. And the fact that our parking problem is both our good news and our bad news. That's a dilemma that most downtown communities would love to wrestle with. And, but they just probably will never see that in this economy. Yet in this economy, we're successful, and I really accredit our DDA and our businesses and our partnerships with making that part of our community so strong. So I'm just glad to be here and foster that and keep that growth alive. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to welcome Jerry, so it's good to have you. You know, it's funny because I was thinking about last week when we went through this, the meeting that we had, looking at designs, I got excited. And today, I don't think I'd ever get excited over some contaminated property, but I am. And I think the village is going in the right direction. I can't wait to see it done.
Welcome, Jerry, and thank you, Molly and Susie, and welcome to the new administrative coordinator. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it.
Diane.
That's it.
I want to welcome Jerry as well. I'm excited to get to work with him on the DDA board. And just a little, we moved here in 1997. So my daughter was 2. And we came downtown, just a little story, our history with downtown. And we came downtown, and we didn't come back downtown for about 13 years. Because there just wasn't a lot down here to do. Children's Park was not done yet then. We had just a few restaurants. There just wasn't a lot to do. And it is so incredibly exciting to see what is in our downtown now and how fortunate we are. And never did I dream in a million years that I would actually have a business downtown Lake Orion, which is very exciting. My nephews come and visit every year for an ice fishing weekend that we do, and they grew up in Grand Rapids, and they rave about our downtown. They love our downtown. They can't wait to come and hang out with us and spend Saturday night downtown. They feel we are just so fortunate to have the downtown that we have. So kudos to everyone who has come before me. I'm the new kid on the block. But all of you, people who have served on our village council in the past, you, Molly, our DDA director, our village managers, who have brought that to fruition.
Hold on. I want to welcome Jerry also, and looking forward to working with you. And good job, Sam.
Thank you.
Dr. Crusoe.
Thank you, appreciate it. So yeah, thanks to Jerry, chief, actor, grandpa.
Yes.
Grandpa, he's like a husband, he's like, he's a great dude. I really appreciate him being here. I've known him for many, many, many years, professionally and personally, and he's a great guy. We're grateful to have him as the village president to kind of bring our ship to the right place. So also, I was looking at the financial report, the financial statement, and it said that due to the DDA's improvements, we increased the value of our road improvements by our road improvements are valued at $3.6 million, and the land improvements like parks, et cetera, like $900,000. So we had about $4.5 million in improvements value to the village of Lake Orion from the DDA, and that cost us $1.5 million. That's not a very bad ROI. I'd take that all day, every day. And yeah, I mean, the village, when I moved here in 1990, November 26, 1990, during the Gulf War, downtown village of Lake Orion looked like a war zone. It wasn't very beautiful. We had, like the wagon wheel, a few other places. It wasn't quite like it is now. Now it's a thriving, booming place. I got friends from all over the state, Rochester, everywhere, in Grand Rapids. They love downtown Lake Orion. They come here because it's a great area to come and visit. It's a good place to come, play, stay, and have a great time at. So I think with help of the village council, and if they could see what we saw, when they see what we saw, the proposals we've seen, the missions we thought, just the proposed plans, It's pretty exciting, Hank, it's pretty exciting. And it's even more exciting to see that with what the attorney had said, Mr. Davis said that the plans that he saw might fit the layout of how the site looks with the, with the work needed to cover up some of the spots that need to be covered up. So I'm really excited to say that we're on the right track. I'm just looking forward to this continuing and having good relationship with the village and making our residents prouder than they are now of downtown Village of Lake Orion. So with that said, upcoming meetings. So I guess I want to mention these real quick again, just to reiterate what Molly had said. So we got next, we have the Main Street Evaluation Day is February 27th at 9 a.m. to noon, and then dinner at 5 to 6. We got February 13th will be the bond workshop with the village account, with the village and us, the DDA board, and then afterwards, the village will do the bond request at 7:30 with the village council, their meeting. And then February 21st is our regular board meeting. So we've got a few things going on, a bunch of steps, plus other things. We're pretty busy, Again, thank you to the board, because, I was told this is going to be a once-a-month meeting type thing, right? It's more than once a month, So it's always said.
I promise it gets better after February.
It's more than once a month, but you know what? I'm proud and happy I could serve and do these things, and I'm sure you guys feel the same. So with that, I guess a motion to adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.